This way, yeah. Good morning. Well, I spoke. We've had several conversations. I'm a sergeant with the recruitment division now. I was previously on Project Longevity, which was part of our gun task force. One of the biggest concerns that I have, and I heard you guys mention the consent decree, is minority hiring. Well, I don't really like using that term minority, so I'll just say African American or black or people of color hiring. The city of Hartford has always been deficient in that. We're trying to increase that. I reached out to the Greater Hartford African American Alliance to help me with that recruitment mission. So I have some numbers here because I always say data doesn't lie, so that's the most important thing. So if each one of you can take one of these, I'll pass it out and I'll kind of read it. If you just take one and pass it around. Oh, my name is Stephen Austin. I'm sorry, Sargent Steve Austin. Yes. Yes, my name is Sargent Steve Austin. Yeah, I'm a lifelong Hartford resident. I'm 57 years old, so I've been here, for a minute, and my family's been here even longer. All right. So when everybody has a copy of the data, let me know so we can just look at some of the numbers. And I just want to kind of explain and there's some gray areas, but I want to clarify some things. So, because you will see something and it's not quite exactly as it seems. So I'm going to put my glasses on there too, Stan, so I can read a little bit. All right, let's look at this. If we look at the total number of people on the Hartford Police Department, let's look at the total right there at the bottom. It's 422 sworn officers. That's police chiefs. That's all the way down to the very lowest police officer. Okay? But let's look at those demographics. This is the most recent. This is of January 22nd, 2020. All right, we have 247 white male officers, 41 black male officers, 66 Hispanic male officers, 4 Asian. All right, for a total of 358 men. We have 29 white females, 9 black females, 23 Hispanic females, and 3 Asian females for a total of 64. For a total, let's look at the grand totals. We have 276 white males, 50 black males, 50 blacks, 276 white officers, 50 black officers, 89 Hispanic officers, and a total of 7 Asian officers. When we look at the percentages, 65% of the police department is white, 11% black, that's almost 12%, 21% Hispanic, and 1%, just almost 1.5%, a little over 1.5% is Asian. But let's dig a little deeper. All right, when we start looking at percentages, they'll give us a percentage of 41% is minority officers. All right? Understand they're including white females in that 41%. All right? We don't have 41%. So if you take away those 29 white female officers, it goes down to 34%. Minority officer on the job. And that's just officers and detectives. Now let's start looking at decision-making, policy-making, and command staff, and those who make personnel choices. Because this is very important. The people who choose the people that work here don't look like us. Now I'm out here doing recruitment, but I only go to a certain level of recruitment. I get them in the door, I get them trained to pass the physical, I get them trained to pass the written exam. Once they graduate from me, they go up to another process, and that starts the background. All right? And that background division ain't looking like us. Those are the gatekeepers, so to speak. Those are the gatekeepers. We have situations where you can challenge, I guess, an applicant can challenge something if it's something in their psychological or in their polygraph, which is our quote-unquote lie detector. they can challenge that and they go before a review board. However, during that review board, you don't get the name of the individual, you don't get their color. So it's just a number. So they just look at the data. But I think it's imperative that you do know the color. This is just my own personal opinion, just based upon what I've seen throughout my history in this department. I think it's important because at the end of the day, a lot of the polygraphs, and this is important, the polygraph, which has flunked a lot of people of color out of this process, is administered 99.9 times by white males. Now, although it can't detect lying, they say it can detect when you're not being truthful. You're not being as truthful as possible. You're being deceptive. I think there is some implicit bias in that because the gentleman asking the questions don't have a shared experience with the people who are taking the test or being tested. And what they may perceive as being deceptive based upon their experience is not deceptive based on our experience. And I think that is an issue because that is like one of the final stages. So we're getting a lot of candidates who come in, they pass the written, they pass the physical, they get through the background process, they get through the oral board. Now they're up in the psychological and the polygraph. They get all the way through the psychological, they get to the polygraph, and they're dropped. So the most heartbreaking thing you can get for an individual, because this process takes a minute, is to get through all that, work that hard, and then because some guy who knows nothing about you, just based upon what he feels is deceptive, is passing this along to our background division and say, hey, this person is being deceptive about something. But when you get a 24 or 25-year-old candidate, a lot of times they're under 30, who've never been arrested, who've served in the military, or who have various strong backgrounds. Unless they did something over in Russia, it's just not much they can be deceptive about. So if they can get to that point in their life and have no record, no background, no nothing. So like I said, once again, this is not something I can challenge because I'm on the inside. This is where the community has to come in and say, hey, we want to meet these numbers. How can we help? And if there's an issue, how do we get a solution? And I do believe there is an issue with the polygraph. The polygraph is something that time and time again, I'll ask them, well, what happened to that candidate? Because I know them, and someone else recommended them, and I know they know them, and we checked them out, and did our due diligence. That's why they were being deceptive. And I'm thinking, deceptive about what? Well, we can't share that with you. But you as a people, everything is FOIable. You have them shared with you. At that review board, it has to be more than just a number because it's not giving you it's not painting a true picture. Yeah, it's not painting a true picture. You can't just look at things by the numbers. Numbers, although they don't lie in data in terms of when you look at this, when we're talking about something that's such a gray area in terms of a polygraph, well, did you lie? Did you not lie? Were you deceptive? I don't know. What does that mean? Was I nervous that day? A lot of people get nervous. I've never taken, when the first time I took a polygraph, I was nervous. I never even hooked up to a machine and, it measures your breathing and your heart rate. And based upon their experience, it's subjective. So we like to think it's objective because they're sending out to a third party, but when that third party continues to look like the parties that was inside, well, it just gives me reason to pause. Is it really being as accurate as it could possibly be? Is it really being as fair as it could possibly be? These are questions I like to see put out there. I think I need your help, and that's really why I'm here, and I wanted you to look at the data. I know there's a lot of good young men and women in Hartford. I know there's a lot of good young men and women, Bloomfield, Windsor, Manchester, East Hartford, and all the surrounding counties. And they look like me because I know them and I talk to them. And I want them to get this job. And I know we have a culture that say, we don't like the police. We don't like the police. We don't like the police. And the reason why they don't like the police is because of things they've been told. We've been bamboozled, been hoodwinked. It's not the job you don't like. It's the people who have the job that you don't like. The people who have the job traditionally, historically, have always been oppressing you and me. As that changes, as that narrative changes, This man couldn't own a construction company because I can guarantee the construction companies today, before he got in there and hired people who look like me and him, they wasn't hiring nobody. And people say, well, I don't like construction. They paint that narrative. That's not a job for you. You should be in culinary arts. You should be in housekeeping. Those are jobs for you. This is our job. This is our community. We talk about officer-involved shootings. Well, officer-involved shootings don't happen. They will go down dramatically. I know they will, particularly in black communities, if the officers look like that community that they're policing, because we ain't scared of each other. The narratives that they paint out there with the black-on-black crime is a false narrative. Crime is committed proximity of where you live. So if you live in a black community, that's where you're going to do the crime. You live in a white community, it's going to be white crime. The majority of violent crime committed in America is committed by white males. But we do not profile white males. But we do profile black males. And that's because we have allowed that and we are not representative in the true numbers. I don't see my brothers and sisters as criminals. I see them as families, friends, relatives. That's what I see first. And we deal with the crime as it is. If that's the situation, we deal with it accordingly and we handle it like adults. Not that you're a suspect just because I run into you. Not that you're a suspect because you have a hoodie on. Not that you're a suspect because your pants sag a little more than my pants. Not that you like rap music and it's playing real loud. Not that you come from a neighborhood that doesn't have the economic value as yours. Not for all those reasons. And it's important because those little contacts, negative interactions, can go south just like that. And when it does, it negatively impacts us because our young men, and once they're in that criminal justice pipeline, it's hard to come back out. And once you get that scarlet felony record, it's a scarlet F for us. You never get another job. So we don't create the legislation that don't allow you to get the jobs, but then that same legislation that they want to help us with affects us the most. So I would say, and you spoke about the chief. I think Chief Doty, great administrator. And I think he is the right man for the job right now. And if you ask me why I'm supporting him, and I'll tell you why. Not because anything he's done for me, and not because anything I see so special, but I know right now, at this transition, at this important juncture in Hartford, we need somebody who can keep that ship steady until those who are ready to take that position or take that role, leadership role, are in place. And I know he's committed to putting in place mentoring programs for people of color so that they can get not just on the job, but retain, because that's another thing we need to talk about too, retention. You can get the job, but then some of it, like you said, the old saying, last hired, first fired. It's still true. Now, we run into issues here and there on the job because, it is what it is. Guys are learning and they're training, but it just seems to me sometimes, and I may be wrong, but I don't think I am, just based upon what I've seen in my experience. Can't base it on anything else but my experience. We have difficulties here and there, and we need the support of the community to make sure that these young men and women of color, these young black and brown men and women are being trained and retained, put in the best possible position for success. And that's how we do it. We start right here. When I leave here today, I'm going to go over to my sister Francine is doing a Black History event over at Yargo Stadium, and it's called Black Doctors Day. And I'm going over there, and I'm going to say the same thing. Now, we got all these medical professionals coming in of color, and I think that's wonderful for the kids to see those professionals. But they need to see professionals in all levels. They need to see those black construction owners, those business owners. They need to see me because I represent something. I represent something positive. I represent something what young men and young women can aspire to. If not through me, they can be something like me. And I want them to know it's okay. Stop listening to the noise out there in terms of what the rap records say, what the news say, what your friends laughing at you say, not knowing that this job, because this is what they want you to do. They don't want you to have it because they know, especially because it's a quote unquote, you only need a high school degree. It ain't not a job in Connecticut with just a high school degree. You're going to make $100,000, but you're going to make that here. And you see, they want these jobs for their sons and their daughters. And as long as we hate the police and we hate the job, we'll continue to suffer. Our neighborhoods will continue to look the same. Our schools will still be failing, and we'll just keep the generation after generation after generation. But when it changes, because our minds change and we start growing up and stop being babies and stop asking for handouts and taking what's ours because no one's giving me anything. I'm a third, almost a fourth generation Hartford person. This is our money. My family been paying taxes here a long time. Business taxes, residential taxes. Hey, I earned this. No one's giving me anything. I sat in those school classrooms at Annie Fisher. I sat in those classrooms at Fox Middle and Weaver High School. I was there. I grew up in the 70s. I seen all this stuff change when Parker came up, when it was just a gym down in the hole right here. So these are things that matter a lot to me personally. So when I'm out here doing what I'm doing and I'm talking about, I try to do everything I could to the best of my ability. When I was on the gun task force, I went out, I worked a lot with Mr. Ansari. I worked a lot with different organizations to make young men and women understand what gun violence in your own community, how it negatively impacts everything. You know, I work with Sister Terry right here, and, you know, get her double dutch and get all that stuff going because kids need something to be involved with. They need activities, and our children don't get them. But if all our young men and women are working, you see those taxes, you see when you're working and you got money, you buying houses in these areas now you got economic viability. Your community is growing up. Your children are going to do better in school because now more money is going into that school. And as your children do better, then their children will do better. You see, it's a trickle-down effect. But if you ain't doing well, I guarantee you, your children going to flunk too. If you flunk it in life, they going to flunk at life. It's just how it goes. And our communities will never, ever change. So when they tell you they can't be police because, oh, that's snitching, you got to slap them upside the head and tell them that's wrong. You ain't snitching, you saving yourself. You're saving your community, you're saving your brothers and sisters. And that's the most important thing out there. And if you don't want to be a cop, then be a judge. Because when I arrest you, you still got to go to the court. And the judge don't look like you. The prosecutor don't look like you. The probation, parole, none of them look like you. You up in court, and the only one you see is you. And everybody else pointing the finger at you. So we need to change that narrative and start thinking about that. And that's why I'm out here once again. I have some information here. I'll leave a few packets. Please help me out. I ask the INS. I would love for you guys to help me put on a public safety career fair. I'd love to get Chief Freeman over here and his guys and, you know, my guys from the Guardians and a few other organizations. And let's start talking actively to our young men and women about career opportunities. If you're not going to college, fine. If you're not going to trade school, fine. But you need to be able to do something. And this is most important, particularly in what we're seeing here out here now. I do a lot of programs over at Hartford High, and I'm going to tell you something. Those kids are flunking. They can't read. I was there. I'm there every day. They can't read. They're being set up for failure. I'm telling you. And they're graduating. I said, what grade you in? He said, I'm in 12th grade, but you can't read. I didn't tell him that to his face, but I was shaking my head. Because what's going to happen when he goes out for a job? And he can't fill out the application because everything's online. Or they don't teach courses anymore. Like I said, the sad part about it is they're being set up for failure. The prison industrial complex is growing. They're trying to privatize it, and I truly believe it do look like it's going that way because they're going to start talking about the tax burden, and there's always a scapegoat. Well, they ain't doing nothing anyway, so let's privatize it and get them out there, and they can do the corn. They can do all the stuff we don't want to do, and they can do it for free. Or a penny on a dollar, you know, that's slave labor. That's how, okay, this country became the wealthiest in the world, you know. It's real easy to get wealthy when you ain't got to pay nobody. So I just want y'all to think about that. And please, I'm going to leave my card here. I don't want to take up much of your time this morning. And I thank you. God bless. All right. Very good. All right.
Any questions?
Any questions? Please, throw them at me.
You just talk everything, you talk good and everything like that, but then you say that most of the things that going down, we not getting a fair share anyway. But then you come back and say the best man for the job is the white. That's the only guy in the city that could be a chief that you looked at could be a chief. Nobody else have that type of profession or know-how that is that somebody of color?
No, that's what I mean by that.
But
right now,
in other words, you look like you campaigning for Godi. That's what you just do.
No, I said.
That's what you're saying. You say the best man for the job.
Right now.
So,
only for today.
Yeah, but
today, listen, he's in there now. And I said, right now, the ship is kind of sailing right. I'm not saying he's the best man for the job always. I said he has committed himself to putting in mentoring programs so people like me and a few others can start getting in that pipeline and get up into upper management. Right now, there are some African American brothers who are out there right now who have been in the captain level, deputy chief level, and things like that. However, just from my own personal experience, I don't think they're there. Not because, and I'll tell you why, and I'll be honest about it. They may want that job now, but when they were in position to do something, they turned their back. They didn't help people of color. But now they coming back and say, hey, I want this. Can you support me?
So this guy supports you. This guy.
I'm saying,
you just said that he do for you, so you think that is the best man for the job right now.
No. I said he didn't support me per se. I said, once again, is that he is currently the captain of the ship and it's selling all right. And my thing, he has said he is committed not to helping me, but to helping people of color move up through mentorship type issues. You know, so I really wish we did have more. But you see, I'm a sergeant. You really need to be at the lieutenant and above level to get there. And we don't really have those officers there. We just don't. And that's not neither here nor there. A lot of that is on us to a certain degree. But like I said, we didn't have, it's like why my sister's having this Black Doctor Day. You need to see it so you can achieve it. And one of the things we had a few here and there, but they're small in numbers. They've always been small in numbers. We want to get there. I want to get there. And I know other officers want to get there as well. At this, I would say today, as of today, in what we have right now, probably the best option. And I think he is the guy for right now. But right now doesn't mean forever. It doesn't mean every year. It doesn't mean, hey, let's get this going, let's get this rolling, and let's hand off that baton to more people. But we have to get the numbers in. The numbers are most important because you got to start somewhere, and you have to understand. You have to know what you're doing. Yeah, I'm not saying he's the best guy. Now there's some officers out there. There's some black guys out there. They're there. They're there. They are there.
If you leave from here and go at the other place you're going now, you're going to tell them the same thing. The best
I'm be honest
job is him. So
I am not going to support a guy.
So we go to
black. I'm going to support a guy if he's black and he's for blacks. I ain't
and he is for black.
He's more for blacks than some of the other guys. Crazy as that may sound. Crazy as that may sound.
Okay,
it's true. You know, and I hate to say it because we are our own worst enemies. We are our own worst enemies, and I hate to say that we are our own worst enemies, and we have a crab mentality. Yeah. We just do. We have a crab mentality, and I wish it wasn't true. I really wish it, because it hurts me as an individual to see that, you know, your success is my success. But you can't push your brothers down just to push yourself up, and then they keep using you to, you know. So what they'll do, and this is probably true of all jobs that I've seen. You know, when you really want to fire someone of color, they don't come at you with a white guy. They come at you with a black guy. Yeah. The black guy, so you can never charge a charge of racism. Because they always say, oh, you want to play the race card. The race card, I don't even understand what that means. You own the whole deck. What are you talking about? There's no such thing as a race card. I don't get it. We have allowed our own blackness to be weaponized against us. Our own blackness. I see MLK Day, Martin Luther King, he has been weaponized against black people because racists will say to people, well, you shouldn't be racist because Martin Luther King, or you should not be angry because Martin Luther King wouldn't be angry. The very same people who wanted to throw him in jail, kill him. Listen, no, I can get it started on and started on. But we are using our blackness to be weaponized against us, and that's just not fair. And we as a people, we have to stop being the crab mentality, stop attacking each other. We are much more cohesive if we're all together. We may not all agree. I don't even care if we all agree. But when we step out that door, we should be on one accord. Right. And then come back in here and hash it out and go out there and be on one accord. And then this is the way we move forward. Because I go. They have their societies. They have their organizations. And I guarantee you, they're mentoring. I guarantee you, they're bringing them in. I guarantee you, they may have differences. They don't like each other. But I guarantee when they step out, they are very united. And it's not nothing black against white. It's just a matter of fact. We want to rise up and respect. Power does not respect people who are powerless. It respects power. And you have to be able to stand face to face, talk face to face. I still see, as a 57-year-old black man, I still see a lot of black guys when they go speak to a white man, they look their eyes down. And I don't understand that. I'm like, why are you looking down, man? scared to talk power to power. And I see that because this is what I do for a living. You know, I'm a supervisor. I have officers going behind my back and go to other supervisors because they don't want to come to me. That's what it is. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Quick question.
Yes. Just wait for the mic.
My question is, this next class coming up,
Yes.
what do it look like?
I haven't seen the total demographics yet. They're hoping to start it. We won't, as in the background unit, I haven't gotten it yet. We keep asking to see what it is. They're talking about starting it hopefully next month, March or early April. Excuse me. Because then they want to get another class if the funding is there. But I was told it was, and that's a city hall thing and the budget. But they want to start another class in the fall. That's why we're actively recruiting now, because that application period should be opening up late March, April, as soon as that other class jumps in. I know they're looking for people of color. They're looking for as many Hartford residents as possible, but people of color, period. I don't care where they come from. We just need the numbers. We need those numbers. It's very important that we get those numbers. Hopefully, Rallo, I'll get that information. If I get it, I will get it to Inez and she can share with you guys at the next meeting. Or if you all help me out and we have a little special recruitment session with public safety, you know, be in the fire department as well, I can have them by then. So something should be coming out within the next week or two, because I know there's a lot of candidates who are still waiting to get their calls. Yes, sir.
Question. Yes. How many captains, how many deputy chiefs, and how many assistant chiefs should there be?
Well, let's look at the assistant chief. The assistant chief is dictated by those are auxiliary positions. So at least the deputy chief, assistant chief, and the chief are all hired outside the union shop. All right. Mm-hmm. So if you're a deputy chief and or a chief or assistant chief, you're no longer part of the union. So at his pleasure and his budget, the chief can have one assistant. Usually they have one assistant chief and several deputies, but he can have up to 5. Rovella had 5 deputy chiefs, but he didn't have any assistant. All right. Doty has an assistant because Rosada had an assistant. Rosada brought his own assistant chief in. That was Medina, Rafael Medina. They were both state police officers, and they kind of came as a package deal. They came in together, and Chief Rosado, he resigned, and he moved on to wherever he moved on to. Chief Medina is still there. At this point, he's under contract, but what that means, all those chief contracts have buyout clause or options. So if Doty is confirmed as the chief, he may hire his own assistant chief, or he may keep Medina. I don't know. That's something that, you know, I don't know what his plan is on that level. And he's Hispanic, by the way. Medina is Hispanic. We have one black deputy chief, that's Sonia Watson. She's Deputy Chief Sonia Watson, all right? The only one. We have one Hispanic captain, just one. We have no black captains, we have no female captains. And if you go down to the lieutenant list, if you look at that, we have 3 white females who are lieutenant. It'll tell you we have 2 black males, but one guy is... He's black, he's biracial, but he's never identified himself as black until it was, you know, for whatever. Yeah, to his benefit, exactly. So that's just been but he's a nice guy. I have nothing, he doesn't hide it. If you ask him, he'll tell you, yeah, but, you know. So, all right. And so the numbers, as you can see, and if you look at the detective, let's look at the detectives. You got 37 white male detectives, 37 white male detectives, and you have 8 black males. All right. So obviously, we ain't good enough to investigate crimes. So I mean, these are things that should stand out very glaringly in a city like Hartford. You know, because when it comes to, you know, getting information from people and trying to solve crimes, people, you know, they're reluctant to trust individuals who just came at them a certain way. And then this guy, he was a patrolman, and now he's promoted to detective, and this was the same guy that was kicking in your door and kicking in your head and everything else, and now you want me to be fruitful and have a good conversation with you and help you with this particular incident? It's very difficult. Not to say that it can't happen, it's just difficult. Trust is huge. Trust and legitimacy is huge. The people who you trust are the people who you tend to work with and talk with. And I would like to believe that in our community, as that changes, you know, we get more trust and more legitimacy with our law enforcement. And I hope to see this not just in Hartford, but this is something that has to happen nationwide, particularly in areas where people of color are the majority of the residents. So, and until we see that, you're going to still continue to see these high-profile incidents that we just like, well, how did it happen again? Well, it happened again because we allowed it to happen again.
Yeah, question.
Yes.
You have the floor, Doctor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. There's an issue which any candidate for chief might be asked, which is coming up before the state legislature, and there's at least one past police chief who says he favors some legislation. I can't help mentioning it because it's coming shortly, in another month or two, before judiciary, and that has to do with long sentences given to those who are incarcerated for doing things when they were very young. I mean, it relates. It's called sentence modification hearing, and we have a chief state's attorney who everyone knows, I think, has denied it except for 1% for a sentence modification hearing. And so I think it relates to who heads any police department or any of us here to insist that anyone has a right to a sentence modification hearing without being blocked by the state's attorney, which is the law right now, that a state's attorney cannot give permission to have a sentence modification hearing for someone who maybe had a 50-year sentence for something that he did when he was under 16. You see, so I feel it's so urgent to mention it because any police officer, especially a chief, can say, look, that is outdated. To give a young person such a long sentence without a possibility of appeal blocked by the prosecutor who put him in jail in the first place. So I mentioned it called sentence modification hearing. The chief of judiciary, African-American man, is Senator Gary Winfield, and he's on board with it too. But it's touch and go as to whether the prosecutors and some conservative Republicans might block that legislation, which just modernizes the code and would keep more of our young people who might then apply as police officers who have been released with good behavior, keep more of our young people in the community and act as a force for good. I do hope so. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but sentence modification hearing, the bill will come up soon. Any testimony, including yours, would be very helpful in my opinion.
Yeah, was there a question there? Yeah, I mean, that was a statement more than anything else.
Yes. What would be the feeling of yourself and any candidate for police chief, including Thody, about whether or not we should leave behind that blockage of a reasonable hearing? Who can and should support that so that it makes the legislation this year, after failing so many years in the past, including when Senator Eric Coleman proposed it, and they just block it at the end?
Well,
who should do it?
Well, who should do it? I mean, listen, I'm not into she hit it right in the head, but on a personal level, anything that happens in our community, we're citizens, we have a vote, we have a voice. We have to make our voices heard. That's all I can say. In terms of who our chief is, in terms of what his thought process is, his thought process is dictated by, our mayor who hires him, our mayor who we all voted for. So we need to put those issues out in front of them because these are our representatives. We have a city council. Let's put these questions to them because these are the people at the end of the day who can put pressure on our state representatives. So that's where these conversations have to be had. And we also have to look at the economic benefit of who stands to profit. So you look at, Harvard, Bridgeport, and New Haven, I'm sure you get overwhelming support. You might not get that same support in Darien. All right, so.
Point made.
Yes. Is there a captain and a lieutenant list at HR?
Yes, there is a lieutenant list at HR right now, ma'am. There is. And I think there is a captain's list as well. We have some guys who are on that list. We have at least one. I have a sergeant buddy of mine. He's on that lieutenant list. I don't know where he is at right now, but he is on that current lieutenant list.
Okay. Can the chief of police go to that captain list and that lieutenant list and make a deputy chief?
Yes, he can.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, he can.
Excuse me.
He's recording it, so you got to hear stuff.
No. Excuse me. Nope.
How you doing, sir? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
My question is, the areas that this is about school buses, but the areas that other traffics are coming back into Hartford in the morning times, is there anything that you guys can do to secure those buses a little bit more? Because I see a lot of cars, not people of our color, that will fly around the school buses.
Okay, what I will do, because that is really not what we're here for today, I'll give you my card, and then we can have a sidebar, and then we can talk about that. I can make sure that if you know a particular area, particularly in the morning, where cars are going past that, I can get that information, I can get it out to our traffic division, and they can do some enforcement if there's a particular area where you see that at. Okay?
Yes, I come a little late, and I understand you when you're young. You're doing a good job, but sometime I ain't gonna say I've been set up, because you seem to be smart enough not to be set up. But if you can look at, I am an old city employee. I worked at 43 years. I know some white boys. I know a white boy come all the way up in, it was a sergeant. His father was over public works. He got arrested, got in 2 or 3 arrests down in Florida. And he come on the Hartford Police Department. Now, and also, that Spanish guy from Springfield. I really think that it's a double system. It's something that you can't do anything about it. It's something that we have to do political. Because we having a thing now going, you don't have anything to do with it. At Public Works, so that they got a Spanish guy in personnel, he behind all the Spanish guy. You see all the Spanish guy driving these garbage trucks and everything? It's one guy that he knows a guy in personnel that helped. That's something we should be doing. But right now, the problem of the police department, we have black leaders that should be doing something. And far as this guy, that job that they made chief, I think that is I think maybe you get along with him, but I think that is a kick in the rear end what they did him. They said down there he was saying niggas this and niggas. All of them said that, but I'm saying to you, and it was proven. And Bronin didn't. I mean, to me, he was. Nobody gonna tell me Bronin was told. Even though he had a right to do it. Somebody recommend that guy, and that was a poll recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, Sergeant Austin, we want to thank you for coming and sharing your information with us. We know you have a busy schedule and a lot of things to do. So first of all, thank you for coming. And second of all, Madam President, I would like to follow up on your statements last week that we have a lot of ideas and we have a lot of complaints, but we don't put any action plans together to address the issue. So I would like to put a motion on the table that we put together a subcommittee of the African American Alliance to start working on a public safety career fair and take this gentleman's word that the Hartford Fire and Police Department will work with the Alliance. Let's put on a career fair. Let's see if we can get some young brothers and sisters that are willing to do it. So I want to put a motion on the floor that we put together a subcommittee of the Alliance to put on a public safety career fair.
Second. Discussion. That the motion is that we establish a subcommittee for the public safety career fair.
Yes.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
Can you leave us your contact information?
Yes, I will. I have several business cards, and I'll leave them right here on the front table. And just grab one.
I was late with you. See motion passed. The question I have deal with the recruitment process. Based on information in the booklet, Hartford Police Department, it says that the candidates who apply to become policemen in the Hartford Police Department will be getting help, aid on the agility testing, on study sessions, on the mock They'll be able to deal with mock oral boards. Is this something new, or is this something the police department has done before?
It is something rather new. We found that, and it started under Chief Ravella. We started seeing that, in particular, unfortunately, I think we have a generation where kids, they tend to stay in the house. Young men, they play a lot of video games, so they could not pass the physical agility test. The Cooper standards is a state bare minimum that you have to pass. I can tell you something, this is a great job, but it's not for everybody. But a lot of people can do it. Is it worth it to you? This is what I always speak to young men and women. What's worth it to you? You know, when you go to school and you're studying, is it worth it to you to study for 4 years to get a college degree? Is it worth it for you to study another 3 or 4 years to get a law degree? Is it worth it to you? Is it worth it for you to finish high school? What's your value system? If you value something, if you want a career, then at the bare minimum, you can make over a 25-year period almost $2.5 million, then you'll get yourself in shape and pass that test. Mm-hmm. If it's not valuable to you, then keep playing video games. Maybe something else will come up. We help you. Matter of fact, we give you the written exam. We'll sit down in a class like this. We'll pass out the written exam. You'll take it, and then we'll go over it question for question. So in other words, whatever you got wrong, we'll help you correct it. Then, if you get through that physical agility, and if you get through the written exam, now you have to go before the oral board. So it's a board of people, you know, some are civilians, some are in law enforcement, and we give you mock questions, and we help you and point out little pointers, things that you can say that will make you seem more in tune to the job that you're seeking, so that you understand that, you know, you don't want to come and talk about McDonald's if you're looking for a law enforcement job. So let's listen to the question and how to answer it correctly. You know, I can't give you all the words, but I'm definitely going to point you in the right direction, and you're going to be sailing along where you need to be. And that's what we try to do, because it may not be the exact questions. They may be in different order, but I guarantee you some of these points are going to be asked. And it helps, and it behooves, in particular, people of color, because we were never exposed to these things. It's just like anything with financial literacy. That's another thing we do, because we do a credit check. We offer a financial literacy, it's not a course, but we bring in financial advisors who talk to individuals about their credit, how to get your credit right, and if you have bad credit, how you can start making payment arrangements and getting things in order so that you can go that way. You can start, at least have it on paper saying that, hey, yeah, I didn't pay this because of that. There's a lot of ways you can explain things out in terms of your credit, because we all know, hey, I had to pay the cable bill, or I had to pay my son's doctor bill. So we understand. But you have to show some reason. You have to show that you're also understanding and mature and intelligent enough to make some arrangements, to make a call to that credit bureau, to make a call to the MDC, to make a call to Xfinity and say, hey, yes, we want to pay this. I'll give you $20 a week if that's what it takes to get the bill paid off, or it's a credit card company. So we bring in these financial advisors. These are things that were never done before. And we're doing this because, like I said, unfortunately, we're behind. We're behind. As a people, we are behind. Our children are behind. Our young men and women are behind because they're just not, like I said, the schools are failing them. I don't care what they tell you. The proof is in the pudding. If you don't believe me, look at the demographics, because it's out there. Look at the SAT scores. It's out there. My thing, what I'm saying is that we're doing our best. We have physical training every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We do it, now that it's cold out, we've been doing it right here at Parker. Right here at Parker, every night, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. It's about 15 to 20 people that come out every week, every day. They're coming out because they want the job, and they're doing what it takes to get there. And I'm encouraging them, and I'm also encouraging other young men and women. And like I said, I keep saying young men and women. There is no age cap on this job. I was 41 when I started. 41. So I'm saying that because I wanted it. I went out there. Time myself, they didn't offer training, so I went and ran that track, and I need to get 30 seconds faster. Okay, I knew I could do the 29 or 30 sit-ups. That wasn't no problem, but that was just me. But I mean, everybody falls in where you fall in at. And in terms of the written exam, hey, if you're having issues with the written exam, by us helping you with that practical exam, We're showing you where your deficiencies may or may lie so that you can correct them, or we can help you and get better at it. I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to take that and pass that exam. But these are small barriers that you can overcome if you're willing to put the work in. Because like I always tell them, nothing worthwhile is easy. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would be a millionaire, but it's not. You got to do some work too. But we're doing a lot, and we're going to continue to do that.
I just wanted to emphasize that the fire department has had aspects of this helping the candidate in place for a while, and they have been rather successful in getting minorities into the fire department. And I'm very glad to see that the police department is now offering this help and aid to the candidates so they can be better prepared to pass each of these steps that they have to pass in order to be a Hartford police officer. I am very, very pleased. And they're listed in the booklet. He has some copies so that you can see. And the idea that it's really not the job, that people who have the job maybe are disliked. It might just be that the job is for more of our people if our people are willing to give it a try. I thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, hey kid.
I'm sorry I missed most of the presentation. I'm glad that the HPD's looking to do more. These numbers are disappointing. Total all numbers for African Americans in the city, there's probably anywhere from 40 to 45, 50% tops. Black is at 12, let's call it 12%. Latinos, which may be the majority population of the city, at 21% total, looks like. You're looking at a third. This is an 85% black and brown city. When I was on council, I mean, look, the police department is the most resistant organization to change within City Hall. It does not want to change. It sees no interest in changing. I mean, we put a program out when we were on council. It was Mayor Segarra's program to actually start recruiting kids out of high school. And that's actually still on the books, which talks about if a kid does was an outgrowth of the Police Explorer program, trying to get kids from high school, realizing that they couldn't become officers until 21 because of the age requirements for the carry of the license. And it looks like that has been completely dropped. And now the recruiting process has changed. I mean, and look at your management within the organization. I mean, your all your numbers of color come from basically the officer dimensions.
It's already said all of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, it's just frustrating. I've been here I came here when I was 27 years of age. The numbers were exactly the same then. They're no better. And there's more black people in this city. There's more Latinos. We've had black and Latino mayors. I mean, I just don't. And getting a black chief is just like, I mean, it's like looking for the goddamn Holy Grail. I'm sorry. I mean, the police department really frustrates me. And then the police department complains about its relationship with the community. I had a nephew I raised. All his friends used to come to my house. They would all get in line to apply to be firefighters. They wanted to be firefighters. I could not get one of them to submit an application to HPD. Now, that's the problem. That's the problem. When your relationship, and that's not just this police department, that's all over. They don't see the police as an organization they want to join, be associated with, because they see it as the enemy. Where firefighters, it was great. Oh, that's a job I want. I mean, that's, they all lined up. Some of them made it through, some of them didn't, quite frankly. So there's a couple of guys I know that are young firefighters, but you could not get them, and they would have made excellent cops. They're everything you want. The one thing you don't have here is Hartford. How many of these folks are Hartford residents? Okay. I will submit to you that it's probably less than 5%. When we were in council, we did those numbers. Nick Carbone was still alive then, and it was less than 10%. So in addition to not having enough minority officers, we don't have enough Hartford residents who are cops in our city. And the reason that matters is because when you're from a place, and I don't know if you're from Hartford or not, so I'm not trying to be critical. He is. You know what's going on. You know who is who, what may be right, whose parents you can talk to. And those days when we used to have those relationships, that made things run a little bit smoother. When people come out of here, and there used to be one cop named Alan, he used to talk about he was John Wayne and was trying to say, thought that he was out here trying to protect. Hey, I'm not lying, it's the truth. And if he wants to see me about it, he can. I ain't afraid of him. Look, he thinks he's big enough, come see me. That's a problem. I mean, don't come here thinking you're John Wayne like you're going to try to save something. We don't need you saving. We need you to work with us. Okay, and that's why I want people from Hartford. And at the very least, minority folks who understand the community. This tells me we got a whole bunch of people out here who probably do not understand Hartford and maybe have no interest in it other than it's a great job to have, but a great pension, great paycheck.
Okay. I'm going to just throw a little one thing. I'm gonna address that. 27 years, 57 years, I've been in Hartford. My family been here 4 generations. We the Austins from Adams Street. We are well known in Hartford.
Okay.
Let's back up a little bit. Now, and you're a lawyer, right?
Yes.
By trade. Who? Josh. A lot of African American men don't want to be lawyers either, or the prosecutors that they need to be, and the judge. And in terms of the police department, we don't want to be cops because the narrative has been, just like you said, that the cops are bad. And I agree. I was a teenager in the 70s. I was 10 years old in 1972, so I came of age during that time period from 72 to 80. Those are my formative years as a young man and a teenager. I didn't like police officers. I saw a lot of negative things, a lot of bad things. Of course, no one, if you were to ask them that, well, that never happened. Well, they used to tell us, because they had always these police review boards or whatever. Oh, go down to the police station, report it. Go down there, you get arrested. That was a reality. You go down there and make a complaint against an officer, you go right down to Morgan Street and make a complaint if you want back in the 70s. All right? Now, we're also talking about other things, and I get it, because you said 27 years. Well, I'm just going to use my high school graduation of 40 years. 40 years, and you said it hasn't gotten better in 27. Well, it hasn't gotten better for me in 40, because I use it. I see the downslide, and I ask myself, because we talk about, you talked about, you threw a little politics in there, and who have been the politicians that we've been supporting? Yeah. For 40 years. I'm not saying no Democratic Party or Republican Party, but we know this is a Democratic city. We keep voting for the same 5 families and the same 5 family members. Amen.
I work hard on these people.
Hey, if you want something different, you gotta try something different. If you want the same result, you'll keep getting the same result and getting people to come over here. I don't need nobody to line dance with me, do an electric slide. I don't need somebody to come over here and tell me he loves my neighborhood, and then when I turn around, I see the decay. I don't need you to grandstand on Martin Luther King Day, and then you hate me on Labor Day. Because I need a job. I don't need Martin Luther King Day, and then tell me, oh, I'm gonna be with you for Black History Month. Well, what about the other months? I understand this is the bamboozle when I talk to you about, and the fooling and pulling the wool over our eyes in terms of what law enforcement really should look like in our community, who the lawyer should look like, who the prosecutor should look like, who the judge should look like. We have been told, and our kids and our parents and all of us have brought into it, man, you can't be a cop. Oh, that's the worst thing you could do. Well, it is not the worst thing you can do. Mm-hmm. The worst thing you can do is be silent and stand on the sideline. Ask those people in Europe when they were killing all the Jews. They were silent and stood on the sideline. That's the worst you can do. Be silent. Because then the status quo will continue on. My children will have to deal with the same mess I left for them. Their children will have to deal with the same mess they left for them. So I'm saying to you, the uniform is just, when I take it off, it falls on the ground and I kick it to the corner, put it in the hamper. But the man or the woman in the uniform makes all the difference in the world. If that man or woman in this uniform does not respect you, does not have your best interest at heart, you're going to continue to get what you get. And that's something each one of us has to look inside ourselves in terms of whatever it is we're doing, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's manufacturing, whether you're working in the insurance company, because we have these opportunities. But that's not for us, because peer pressure is such that they tell you, don't do this, where others are taking advantage of it. We talk about those super cops that come back year after year, and well, what do you think he's telling his grandkids right now? His grandkids is coming for your grandkids and my grandkids, because that's what he's teaching them at home. And I'm saying it has to stop at some point. That's all. And where does it stop? Law enforcement is not for everybody. This can be a very dangerous job. But I truly believe when we talk about legitimacy, you can't have legitimacy unless you see the fact of what you're looking at. When I look at you, I see a reflection. I see a reflection. I see a reflection. I see my mother, I see my uncles, I see my dad, I see Mr. I see me. In every beautiful color, complexion, facet, education, whatever, I see me. And when you don't see that, our children don't have any respect for law enforcement because the law enforcement they see don't have nothing respect for them. They don't have respect for the teachers at the school because the teachers don't look like them. They don't have respect for anything because their parents, who also didn't have no respect, they're losing that. We're losing generations. And we're still pointing at everybody else to come help us. Woe is me, come help me. Well, I can tell you, they ain't coming. They're not coming. They're not coming. All you have to do is look on TV. TV tells you everything. Look at the data. Stop looking at the smoke screen of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is Donald Trump. Donald Trump was created by a vacuum. Hey, listen. All right. So, I mean, I want to make sure that we understand this, you know, so we can move forward and the little things we can do, let's do.
I got a question to that.
Yes.
You know, we have enough minority folks applying to the police force. Now they get to a certain level in the requirement process, and then they're cut off. What can we do? Because you mentioned
go to City Hall.
You mentioned the gatekeeper.
Go to City Hall.
You mentioned the gatekeepers.
Everything
in the police
stops
department.
downtown.
How do we get to change those
when
gatekeepers?
You vote, the people you elect, you have to hold them accountable, because that's where it starts. He cannot tell you no. She cannot tell you no. The other boss can't tell you no. But we don't hold them accountable. We let them push us to the side. You just angry. That's not, because they'll trot somebody who looks like you and say, that's just not true. But then you don't have to look around. I mean, listen, your eyes don't lie. You know? So if that's the fact, I'm just saying, hey, listen, I'm not recreating the real, I'm not a genius, I'm not a rocket science. All I'm saying to you, hey, we can change our own narrative. We have that ability, we have that power. It's within our grasp. If we don't, you know, you can come to me and say, well, Sergeant Austin, well, what should we do? And I'm telling you. Because everybody comes to you and gives you campaign slogans. Everybody comes to you and gives you campaign promises, but then they don't follow through on them. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a reason why our community looks the way it does, because once they got your vote, they don't need you no more. But they'll be back in 4 years singing and dancing at your barbecue, eating jerk pork and everything else, and throwing it out their mouth on the side. This is what I'm telling you. Stop being bamboozled and hoodwinked by the show. Let's get down to business. I am not singing and dancing for anyone anymore. I'm not a minstrel. Business. Show, business. 90% business, we the 10% show. We sing and dance all the time. Something happens to one of our kids, we get in a frost, we march out here, yell and scream, and they say, just let them blow it off. They'll go back to their houses in an hour. Matter of fact, that's it. Go back home until the next kid is dead. And then that's all right. Just play it out. It'll be all right. You understand that. And all I'm saying to you is that this is what we're going through. And I don't want to hold up anybody's time, but if you have any real direct questions about recruitment, I can help you with that. Getting into the whole political thing, then it becomes personal for me, because I'm a Hartford guy, I'm a resident, my family owns houses, we live here. So it's personal. And like I said, he's 27, I'm just using 1980 because that's when I turned 18. So I'm using that. From the time I've been a young adult who's been able to vote, I've seen it get worse. And we keep voting these same individuals back in office, and it ain't always the same name, but it's the same clowns. And watch out for the real power behind the throne, because this may be the power, but I ain't got to tell y'all nothing y'all don't know.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
If I ain't coming back no more, y'all know why.